When you're watching The Incredibles, this movie is really it's a great animated superhero film. I mean, it's a great superhero film in general, but the fact that they did this early on is just crazy to me. How great they were able to capture the essence of superheroism. They dealt with issues dealing with like I don't know, superhuman rights and like kind of the legal battle that they had, explored family dynamics. It all blends so like complex themes and then make it so simplistic and then make it so good, you know? The whole film is absolutely fantastic. Now let's get, I mean, incredible. Yeah, I mean, my bad, my fault. But let's start from the top. I really like the beginning where they show off like kind of the interview, like 50s style, and that's another thing. The time period at which this whole film takes place is in the 1950s or the 19, you know, that early era of what we know as like the 1950s or the 1960s and stuff like that. Like the time period that this film takes place is really important to the overall, like I don't know what would you call the overall narrative, I guess, because it was like in a simpler time or something like that, you know. And it also deals with like how when we get older things change, you know what I mean. For Bob, the main character of the story, great, it's such a great change of pace for him because he's used to being the hero. He's used to the praise, right? The things he grew up with are now different. You know what I mean? One, because he's older. He's not Mr. Incredible anymore. Superheroes were forced into hiding and they can no longer perform public service, and he has to get a regular day job and stuff like that to take care of his family because now he's married and things like that. So the main focus being on Bob. And I gotta say, this movie works great if this movie is still fantastic if the only one with superpowers is Bob. If Bob is the only one with superpowers, the movie's still fantastic. Incredible. The movie's still great. You know what I mean? And I'll explain what I mean. So throughout the movie, we see Bob kind of go from being this Mr. Incredible, being a great hero, you know, fighting for justice or stopping criminals and saving people, right? Like, that's the applause or that's the things that he should be getting. Then he goes through the whole legal battle, and then the legal issues lead to superheroes being outlawed or being taken away, and they can no longer be superheroes, otherwise they'll get arrested, coupled with the idea that he's married now and he has a family to look after. So as much as he may want to be a superhero, he can't because he has a family to take care of and he doesn't want to be gone, so that way his wife is the only one like taking care of the family. So we can see that like the glory days, the best days are behind him, they're past, and he still thinks about them. He still thinks about being a hero. He still thinks about being the superhero, the guy. He thinks about being Mr. Incredible again, helping people, you know, maybe for the glory, maybe for to genuinely be of service to help people, but the main point is that like he's trying to recapture, he's trying to relive it all again. And this can go for any number of people who are maybe feel like they did great things in high school or did great things in college, you know what I mean? They feel like, oh, the best parts of themselves are behind them because life is different now. Life is not what it used to be. And I think that, you know, because of that, we can get stuck in the past. We can get stuck on nostalgia. We can get stuck on the old days, on what used to be, you know what I mean? And his wife does such a good job of telling him and in understanding because she has superpowers herself. She also had to go into hiding. She also had to change. She became a mom, and now that she's a mom, it's like this family, what we've created is happening now. And you're stuck back then. You're stuck when you were Mr. Incredible. You know what I mean? You're not focusing on the reality of where we are now and who we are now. We're parents. We have a daughter. We have a son who are going through real things. And you're not interested in it because it's not punch and save and glory. You know what I mean? It's not being a superhero. But that's what's important now, and you're missing it. That whole argument between the two of them is really powerful. It's really I love the dynamic that they give one another, and I feel like on some points you can agree with Bob and be like, "Yeah, I totally get it." It's like they have superpowers, they have gifts. They can help people, they can save people, they can, do any number of things, but they can't because the government is limiting them. They're limiting their potential of good, right? But at the same time, Helen's kind of like that was then, you know what I mean? It's like I would love to put Dash into sports because he's super fast. He would do great, you know what I mean? But putting him in sports kind of it kind of takes away all of the others' qualities, if you will. It's like we already know Dash is the fastest kid on the planet. Why put him in sports and have him compete and stuff just to humiliate everybody or just to like show off? Like it feels a bit vain, you know? So it's like, it's how do you balance that dynamic? And I think, especially for a kid his age, sports might be his social calling. It might be something to get attention, to make friends, to be around other people. You know, whether or not he has powers or not, sports is a great way to socialize or to get to know other people or be able to improve, great exercise, stuff like that. You know what I mean? But he's a kid. So he doesn't have the same sensibilities, you know what I mean? If he showed off, guess what? Everybody knows he has powers now. The family has to relocate and move and do all this other stuff. It's like, it's terrible, you know? Whereas Violet, she's more reserved. She's shy. And her powers fit her very well. For her social, for high school or whatever she's doing, right? Like, if she uses her powers of invisibility, like, I guess for the most part, nobody can catch her. She can be sly about it. You know what I mean? It's harder for Dash, I guess. But they did catch him on, he put a thumbtack on his teacher's, what's it called? Teacher's chair, and he sat on it and stuff, and he blames Dash. But I'm just saying, they use it for different things. Dash uses it to be a prankster and to show off a little bit, whereas Violet does it to hide herself, which is a great way to show off their powers and their, their personalities and who they are and how they use their powers. You know what I mean? If Dash used his power for social, popularity, he would become arrogant and he would just become really mean. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to using it for good, like protecting his family or saving, people, right? And that's something that they want to avoid entirely. Next, let's get back to Bob. So he's trying to relive the glory days of what used to be, and then we see him kind of not that anymore. He does work a regular day job, and then when he does try to help other people through his job, he even gets in trouble for that. So it just feels like a double ego death. It's like he can't help people as Mr. Incredible, and he can't help people as just Bob Parr. He has to conform to his boss or conform to the government or conform to other people who tell him like don't do anything. And he just feels like you can understand his anger, his frustration with why is everybody pushing against me? Why is everybody telling me to not be me? Why does it feel like every opportunity I'm given or every opportunity that presents itself of like, I could do good here, I'm immediately shut down or pushed back against, or I feel like I'm being mistreated and stuff like that. And there's a part of that we can all relate to, is that like Bob was trying to help an old lady who needed, I don't know what, insurance or something like that. I forget what the exact thing was, medical insurance or whatever he was doing, right? He was trying to help her out and get her through the loopholes and stuff like that. But then he gets, his boss comes up to him and is like, wow, she just so happened to figure out this loophole, this legal loophole, so she can get what she wants and stuff like that. And we see how his one act of good, trying to fight the system or get this lady the help that she needs, ends up becoming such a huge like problem for Bob. And when given the opportunity to go back to heroism, to go back to becoming Mr. Incredible, to being this greater, larger than life person, it's like, of course that's tempting. Of course he's gonna go for it. Of course he's gonna try it. It doesn't mean keeping secrets from your family, but you can kind of understand where he's feeling is that like, if I tell if I tell my wife, she's probably not gonna go for it. She's gonna think it's too risky, and she's right. You know, it's the same thing that when he went to the said he was bowling, but he was actually listening to the police scanner, looking for trouble so that he can put himself out there and save people. And it's like, it's frustrating because again, it's that thing where it's like he's doing it for him, not for his family. He's not really focusing on what his family or what his current situation is, what he can do to help them presently. He's thinking about how can I help myself selfishly by doing things I used to do in the past. And I think that's the hard part, or that's the argument you make against him, is that like he's making selfish choices. But you can understand them because it's like, well, yeah, he has superpowers. Like I'm not gonna be like, you can't be mad at Peter Parker for dressing up as Spider-Man, or what's that, man? What's it? It was like Invincible. I don't know if you've ever seen spoilers for Invincible, but it's like that argument he was having with like Amber about how they were like boyfriend girlfriend, like together breaking up and stuff like that. It was like she could understand, like, you know, she was basically saying that like, you're a superhero. I understand you have to go out there and save people, but like I have other things on my mind too, and I deserve somebody to be there for me, and it's like I'm not part of that. And so things like that have always been kind of the difference, or kind of like what we're experiencing now is that like, or what we see in Bob is trying to hold on to what was as opposed to embracing what is, has created a divide between him and his family. He keeps secrets from his wife. He's not as paying as much attention to his son or his daughter or even his baby Jack. It just kind of leaves him out, right? But we know he does love them. We know he cares about them. He knows he's interested in their powers, in their gifts, right? When Dash was talking about how he went to the principal's office, his first instinct wasn't to be mean to Dash about it. He was kind of like, whatever, just talking about school stuff. But as soon as it becomes about his powers, how he used them to put a thumbtack on the principal's chair, right? Then he gets interested. He perks up his ears. He's kind of like, what'd he do? Oh, wow. You must have been running really fast. You must have been booking. How fast do you think you were going? And we see Dash kind of like lights up a little bit because it's like they can connect about their powers. They can connect about their superheroism. And we can see that that's something that Bob enjoys. You know what I'm saying? And if he had it his way, they would be expressing that all the time. And that's why Helen is such a great dynamic between them, is realizing that like, oh snap, like actually there needs to be some sort of punishment or consequences or recognition of the wrongdoing, because if he gets away with it, he'll do that time and time again, breaking the rules and messing things up, and that's the last thing we want to have happen. So it's cool. It's really nice, the dynamic between all of them. Anyways, the rest of the movie, we see Bob and the rest of the family split up for most of the movie. And the reason why I say that if Bob was the only one with superpowers, the rest of the movie works is because we're really focusing on Bob's strength and his inability to, I don't know, kind of let go or be in control, right? Is that like, he feels like when he's in control and when he's Mr. Fantastic, he's the strongest man on the planet, And what we later come to realize is that like, he wants to be Mr. Fantastic, or he wants to be the strongest man on the planet because he feels weak. He feels like, in the past, he wasn't in control of things, right? He got sued. The superheroes had to go underground. He couldn't be himself anymore. And he feels so down and emotionally and mentally weakened by the enemy he goes up against, Syndrome, right? And it's kind of like, that's a weakness for him. His family is his weakness. But then with all of their trust, I mean, the trust that he has in their abilities, in their powers, because they are superheroes, is important because then it allows him to kind of realize that they're capable, they can protect themselves, and I can also protect them, you know? So there's that element to it. But if they didn't have powers, I think he would still be vulnerable and he would still rise up to the challenge of fighting against the robot and stuff like that, you know? But anyways, I want to talk about Bob and Syndrome's dynamic and something that I think a few videos or a few channels or a few people like dissecting the Incredibles have talked about is there's a moment where obviously in the past where we see like Incrediboy try to help out against Bomb Voyage and stuff like that, and the seriousness of the moment is like what's it called? The seriousness of the moment is Bomb Voyage is robbing a bank or something, and he has bombs on him and stuff like that, and Mr. Incredible is trying to apprehend the guy, you know what I mean? Keep him from escaping or hurting anybody else. But Incrediboy gets in the way and he kind of messes things up a bit, you know what I'm saying? And then he gets a bomb strapped to his cape. He tries to fly away, and Mr. Incredible is trying to save him because he put himself into harm's way. Now, when we see that whole backstory, we see that he's just some idiot kid trying to prove himself, you know, trying to be a sidekick, be with showing off his inventions, showing off that he doesn't need superpowers to be great and stuff like that. Like he's just trying to prove himself, you know, and he really admires Mr. Incredible. But when we see Syndrome's like backstory, or when he talks about how he disrespected him, or he kind of told him that like, hey, you know, go home, I work alone, you know what I mean? He didn't really recapture the seriousness of the moment. He doesn't remember it as Bomb Voyage was there and he had bombs and he blew up the place and he strapped a bomb to my cape and Mr. Incredible jumped on to try to save me and stuff like that, and then Bomb Voyage got away and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Instead, it was more so like he just turned his back on him and walked away, and that wasn't the seriousness of the moment. So it just goes to show that like they remember different things that happened in that moment. And so years later, when Syndrome becomes very wealthy from inventing weapons and using technology, we see that not only is it a sign of the times of like how the old school style of superheroism has adapted to now technology is catching up to where these superheroes are going to be obsolete because the technology is just improving at a faster rate. In the same way that like people used to be back in like I guess the 1950s were super smart, really intelligent people, right? But then when computers came around, you know what I'm saying? Like when computers came around, or they sort of showed up, like I guess you could say that people kind of dumbed down a bit. You know what I mean? So it's kind of this weird thing where it's like it shows that like technology is progressing, it's improving, and it's changing everything now. You know, it's making somebody as strong as Mr. Incredible unable to fight back. You know what I'm saying? But then we later see that it kills itself. You know, it it hurts itself. You know what I mean? He himself, as a human or as a superhuman, might be unable to defeat it, but itself probably could. So, anyways, I just love that whole dynamic between the two of them. So many great moments with Bob, with his wife, with Syndrome, with Frozone. Like he has so many great relationships, and yet his single-minded focus on superheroism is kind of you know destroying those relationships a bit. You know what I mean? He thought that Helen died and was killed because of Syndrome. Like it's all because of his choices and his actions. You know what I mean? His lie to his wife is what led her to go chase him on the island. His dismissal of Syndrome as a kid is what led to him accruing a huge amount of wealth, proving himself, creating a murder death robot, having an island all to himself, and then sending out bombs to destroy and kill his family. Like, it all comes back to Bob, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, let me think. What else is there? Whew, man, this movie does so much right. It's hard to point out like a bunch of flaws. Um, I think I think one of the things I maybe dislike about the movie, and there's not a lot of those moments. Let me think. I think one of the moments I probably dislike is it might be I would say the Jack incident where at the end of the movie they have to go get him, but I feel like um I feel like that moment is a bit, well, no, it works actually. I was gonna say that the him going after Syndrome going after Jack didn't really make as much as it did, like, I don't know, maybe retreating or running away and trying again. But I think he already lost, so he was desperate to hurt them any way they could. So he goes after Jack, so it works. Um, Let me think. I don't I don't really see a whole lot wrong with this movie. I thought they did everything completely great. I thought the animation was fantastic. It was colorful. The soundtrack is really fun. I like how they play with the 1950s sound of it, the jazz and things like that, or that style of music. It works. Um, yeah, I like the sibling dynamic between Violet and Dash. How Violet is caring about their marriage, and Dash is like, "What the heck are you talking about, Violet? Like talking about romance in a cave and stuff like that." I don't know. It all works for me. I really enjoy it. What else is there? Frozone. Where is my super suit? Great moment. Samuel L. Jackson killed it. Um, I don't know. I don't know what more is there to really pick at or say. I want to say that it just really explores family dynamics really well. And by the end of the movie, we see that Bob has now fully embraced his role as a parent and as a superhero. And they figure out a balance, right? You can't have everything, but you can have some of the good stuff and some of the downside stuff. You know what I mean? Dash can't win first place. He can't be recognized as number one, but maybe number two, it's not so bad. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's a great ending when they all come back together. Let me think. What else is there? Costumes, Edna mode, great work. I thought that was really humorous, the way that they all put it all together again. Let me think. What else is there? Yeah, I feel like The Incredibles is a great family movie, great dynamics. Obviously, they have superpowers, so it's exciting to see them, express them. To see Mrs. Incredible, Elastigirl stretch and use her powers. To see Violet, you know, turn invisible and then to like create force fields and stuff like that. And see Dash run really fast is really cool. Run on water. Great stuff. It's all really exciting, and you feel like, and it just feels like a certain amount of whimsy to it all, which I enjoy. So, all of that said, when you're watching The Incredibles, I think I think everybody should kind of put themselves into Bob's shoes, because we start off with him, and when you when you go through this journey with him, you kind of feel like, okay, I understand. Like, this is what needed to happen. He needed to go through all of these things in order to fully become the best version of himself, to become the better parts of himself, to find and fully embrace his position and standing in life now. It's not as it's not as loving, or it's not as great unless you have your family with you. You know what I mean? So, when you look at it from like maybe other people's perspectives, it might be a little bit more exciting. But when you put yourself in Bob's shoes throughout the rest of the story, you're kind of like, man, it was so cool being a superhero. Like you're on top of the world, you get married, and then you get hit with a lawsuit, and then you're working a dead end job that you don't like. You want to be a superhero again, but then you get the opportunity to be a superhero again, and then you get to be on an island and you work out and you become strong like before, and then your family and dynamic life is like you're holding back a secret, but it's so good, you know what I mean? Everything in life is like colorful and really beautiful, and then everything goes wrong, you know? Then it's you get taken hostage and you figure out that the the bad guy is really somebody from your past who you maybe disrespected and stuff like that. And then it turns out that, oh wait, you know, I have to stop this guy and he's gonna destroy the city, and then he's gonna pretend to be a hero and he's gonna hurt people, and then I don't want to lose my wife and my kids, and then da 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 da, any number of things, right? And then by the end of it, it's just I am Mr. Incredible, and I have an amazing family, and I want to be a part of their lives, as opposed to just wanting myself to become Mr. Incredible. We are the Incredibles. And so they become that by the end of the movie. And that's the part that gets fully embraced by the end, is that we're a family and we're regular on the outside, but but the secret we're hiding from the rest of the world is that we're superheroes. And so yeah, great movie. Absolutely love this movie. Um, a great ensemble cast of characters. Um, so many great moments of action, and there's a lot of moments of, I guess, heroism debates whether or not like is saving somebody like justified and stuff like that, or when is the right time to act. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, when you're watching The Incredibles, watch it from Bob's perspective and just really focus on him, because then you'll feel a tremendous amount of growth by the end. And that's cool. And that's something I think we could all apply to our lives, is find something that, okay, I can improve on this. How do I do that, And you'll find it. You'll find it. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.